day to everybody. We are now to the 5th lessons of corporate scenario and strategies of international business development for SMEs. This is the last lessons of a serial. As you remember, in the previous one, we have been identifying why certain SMEs have to think to go abroad. We have identified which categories they should be, what they should do, and in which manner they should prepare themselves. Now, in these 5th lessons, we are going to see how they can finance this new activity, the export activity. How shall I finance export activity? This is the question, and we are going to try to give a reply to this question. The outline of the lessons are the following: standard export financing, letter of credits, and the risks which are linked to export transactions. Now, which are the alternatives we have when we have entered into an export transaction? But remember, I'm always saying and stressing export, but what I'm saying stands also for import transaction. So what are the real alternatives I have when I want to finance an export transaction? I have the standard export financing, which is made available to me as an entrepreneur of an SME by my bank. I have letter of credits, and I have structured export financing, and some also subsidized and schemes from the European Union or from other entities like UNIDO or like EBRD or IFC, I mean supranational entities which are promoting and supporting the export activities of small and medium-sized companies. There are also bilateral agreements, which are agreements which are normally reached between governments, where the government of a growing economy is negotiating with the government of a developed country, and in the development country there is the need and the desire of exporting more, so they are packaging soft loans and grants to the benefit of those companies in the foreign country that are interested in buying from the country that has made the agreement. There are special features for specific cases in certain regions, in certain areas, and in certain moments. And we are going to focalize on few of these. We have no time, and it's useless at this very stage of startup as an exporting enterprise to see all of them. We are going to see standard export financing, what's the meaning and what are the contents. Now, we are talking about a country which is characterized by weak currency, high inflation rate, and high interest rate. Export is seen as an important tool to support the growth of firms. You know, this is the typical situation that was existing in Europe before the introduction of euro. There were countries with very weak currency, like the Italian lira. I will speak about my country, which were exporting to countries where they had a strong currency. Germany, as an example, with the D-mark. So this mechanism of invoicing the importer in a weak currency like the Italian lira was favoring the export and was promoting the capacity, the export capacities of more Italian firms. Then things have been changing, so nowadays within the European Union there is unique currency, so the weakness of a currency is no longer such an important tool for promoting the export. In the type of scenario, exports are privileged by the fact that prices of goods are denominated in a strong currency. This is the opposite. I mean, the way of seeing. If I do denominate my export in Deutschmark and I am living in Italy, by the time I will be getting paid in Deutschmark, I'm going to make even a better deal. The financial advantage, at any rate, cannot be only the reason of exporting, and I want to stress this. When a firm, a small or a medium-sized enterprise, is entering in the process of exporting, should be done for, not just for the sake of getting some financial benefits in terms of foreign exchange or other kind of financial benefits, but should be mainly for having a steady market, a steady growth, and to create more jobs inside the nation. These are the logic to be perceived. In fact, success in exporting should be based in particular on the quality of products, on the competitive price, and on the efficiency in distributing and customer after-sale assistance. These are the topics we have to focus on once we have decided to export our production. And in particular, we have to keep in mind quality of the products. You know, quality of the products will be one of the key success instruments for penetrating any markets. Let's think about Italian fashion. Why Italian fashion is so common around in the world? It means quality. True quality, made in Italy, in fashion terms, is top quality. No way. Competitive prices, not always competitive prices is a factor of success. If quality is high, price can be high. What is important is that is competitive in comparison to similar quality. Efficiency in distributing and customer after-sale assistance are really important in certain production. In others are not really so important. If you are producing machinery, if you are producing consumer goods, sometimes you have to build up strong and important after-sale customer assistance entities. In other cases, it's not really so necessary. I have still in mind the Italian fashion after-sale assistance is very, very limited. The quality standard is so high that it does not require a great degree of after-sale assistance. If we refer to economic scenario we just described, export financing in the currency of important, if it's not completely restricted by the government, which is not usual, is highly recommended. And then we are going to see also why and for which reason. You know, before going and putting together an export transaction, we should sit and get advice from our bank. Why? It is only our bank that can advise us about the restriction. Some governments are not permitting to provide export financing in the currency of the importer. There are limitations on the use of foreign currency for the purpose of providing financing. But thanks God, we have good bankers. We have seen that we can have corporate relationship managers which are working in team with the other colleagues. So once we sit with them and we ask them which kind of financing we can expect to have. They will be telling us what is feasible, what is possible to be done in the country where we are located and towards the country we want to operate with. So now, just as one example, let's come across a possible transaction. Now, let's assume that we sell coffee to Italy and we invoice the Italian importer in euros at 90 days. This is what we are intending to do, to sell some coffee to an Italian company and giving the Italian company the possibility of paying us within, or better, after 90 days. If we don't do anything, we are subject to the risk of fluctuation of euro against our currency, meaning that I know now what the value of euro is against my currency, but I do not have a precise idea that what can be the fluctuation of foreign exchange in the next 90 days. We could undoubtedly hedge this risk with a forward exchange contract. We sell now the euros for delivery at 90 days. What does it mean? That I will be going to my bank, telling them what I am intending to do, what kind of delay in payment I've been offering to the importer, and I want to cover this risk with a forward exchange contract. That means, okay, I will be selling now the euros I am expecting to receive within the next 90 days. An export financing in euros can achieve the same result at a lower cost. Why? We borrow euros for 90 days at the interest rate of the euros plus a margin. Usually these rates are better than domestic rate, always in a scenario that we have outlined. The scenario, as we saw, is that I'm selling coffee to an Italian company that is supposed to pay me back at 90 days. If I get a financing for 90 days in euro, I will probably pay less interest than if I do borrow local currency at 90 days, especially nowadays where interest rate on euros are very, very low. So I will be borrowing at 90 days, for 90 days a certain amount of euros that we convert in euros in local currency now at the current exchange rate, which is the one that is permitting me to pay the crops of coffee I've been selling. And at maturity, we will repay the loan with the collected euros, meaning I have bought the coffee, I sold the coffee to the Italian company in euros, and after 90 days, I will repay the loan I was provided by my bank in euros with the euros that the Italian company will pay me back. The advantage is that I haven't been taking exchange risk as I borrowed euros and I repaid euros, but I took the advantage of having a very low interest rate, the very low interest rate of euros versus the probably higher interest rate of my local currency. In a sense, we have created liquidity in a self-liquidated manner, assuming, of course, that our counterparty is solvent. What is the only risk I have in doing transaction structure in this manner? That at the end of the 90 days, for whatever reason, but we are going to see later on which could be the possible reasons, the Italian company is not paying me back the euros. So if they are not paying me the euros, I will be not in a position to settle the loan in euro that my bank has provided to me. So I will be forced to sell local currency for buying euros at spot rate for settling the loan I was given. And this is one of the risks you have to take into consideration when you are transacting with foreign entities. So, as I said, the risks that we run are the performance risk of our counterparty and the country risk, which, however, should be acceptable unless something extraordinary happens if we have determined to export in that country. So we go back when we were saying in the previous lessons that we have to take and to make good studies, good research, market research for identifying which are the countries where I should go for exporting my production. One of the factors we have to take into consideration is not just the capacity of my product to be sold in that country, but what are the macroeconomical factors of the country I have chosen. As you know, the risks are of two kinds, as I was reading to you. The risk of my counterparty, which is basically the company I choose to sell my product, but also the risk that the central bank of that country is not in a position to have foreign currency available for permitting my counterparty to pay me back. This does not happen very, very frequently, but there are cases, recent cases, I mean, if it's not very, very recent, but we have Argentina, some other Latin American companies which have restructured their debt, also their commercial debt, meaning that they were not in a position to sell foreign currency to their local customers for permitting them to fulfill the obligation denominated in a foreign currency. It is possible that some rules established by the central bank of our country are to be followed, but usually this type of transaction are feasible. What's the logic here? You know, nobody can be a good exporter by himself. You should rely very much on the expertise of your bank. You should rely very much on the expertise of the corporate relationship manager that your bank has assigned to your company as a reference point. So you should use the bank as a consultancy entity and taking full advantage of the expertise that the people working in the bank can bring to you. You know, we have been talking how a small and medium-sized enterprise should approach new market, new situation. But for banks, these kind of activities are very common, very regular, so they have a lot of knowledge and expertise that they can and they must provide to entrepreneurs. This type of financing is usually appropriated for not durable goods which are paid short term. I mean, very, very simple. In most of the cases nowadays, if we are not speaking about durable goods, all the other items are paid in much shorter period of time. So they don't need sophisticated tools. You send out the invoice and you get the payment. In some cases, it's not bad to think about also asking a certain percentage, 30, 40, even sometimes 50% of payment in advance. In international trade, is not really uncommon. So another tool we can use are letters of credits. Letters of credits are, I think, the most typical tool utilized in trade between countries. Letters of credits are non-cash credits instruments, like a guarantee, issued by a bank to guarantee the payment of a supply made to a customer of the same bank. Okay, here is written by a bank in favor of, to a customer of the same bank. As the example speaks about large banks, which normally they do have either branches or subsidiaries in many other countries. So what I want to say to you is that if you have to choose your bank, you have to ask the bank firstly how much they are present outside your country, which is the network of correspondent bank they have, so to understand how much and in which manner they can help you in your foreign transaction, meaning export and import. You know, some banks have been developing over the years some more experience than others in international transaction, and so it is of a great importance to you to know how and how much your bank is prepared to follow you in this internationalization process. Now, there are several types of letter of credit: commercial, financial, standby, etc. Now, we do not have the time for speaking and talking in deep about all of them. We are going to focalize on commercial letter of credits, which are the ones utilized for import-export transaction. But just for giving you some info, financial and standby letter of credits are utilized mainly for supporting in terms of guaranteeing the activities of subsidiaries in case you decide to have factory established outside your country or a distributing agency, and you want them to be in a position to have some credits, you may ask your bank to open a standby or a financial letter of credits in their favor. What is important is that the request of a letter of credit is recommendable when exports are made to countries where the country risk is equal or better than the risk of the importer, or the banking system is a good risk modifier. Okay, the content of this message is that letter of credit is a banking instrument. Sometimes, you may believe or not, banks' rating, banks' reputation, banks' standing is less than the one of a possible importer. There are different criteria. I will simply be telling you one. For rating reasons, we know that the rating is given to a country, and the country then has banking industry, and the rules are simply saying that no entity in a country could have a better rating of the country itself. So it means that sometimes directly the importer can be better performing than some banks of his own country. But here also, I want to underline, you have to make full reference towards your bank. That is the only one that is going to give you proper indication how to behave in respect of the choice with regard to the instrument to be used. Wording and clauses of letter of credits are regulated by an international agreement among banks. This is very important to be known. There is no possibility that a single importer or exporter by himself is going to write down a letter of credits. They have standard format, standard wording, and only your bank is the one that can provide to you precise information about what to write inside the letter of credit. As letter of credits are handled and checked by banks. So it is a bank matter. It is a bank matter. You have only few information you can provide to them. All the rest will be done by the bank. You should provide them the name of the importer or exporter, the amount, sorry, the kind of products you are exporting, the quantity, the amount, and when you are expecting to get paid. Commercial terms included in the letter of credits and in other commercial documentation are agreed upon an international agreement, Incoterms. Even the banks themselves, they are not inventing themselves the wording. All the banks are utilizing the same rules, the same wording, which are in one instrument called Incoterms. These Incoterms is the Bible for letter of credits, and I think that if you have time, you can also have a rough look to this instrument just for understanding a few things more, or to refer to our website if you want to get some more deep information. But what I want to stress is that only the wording of Incoterms can be utilized and should be utilized, and the banks are the templars of this. Risks which are linked to export transaction. Now, before closing, we are going to see few more risks which are involved when we are exporting, when we have decided to export. Political risk or country risk, to include political stability, inflation, etc. Now, we said at the very beginning of these lessons and also in the previous lessons that I have to study the market of destination, I have to study a good price for being sure that my production can be sold in a certain country. What I should take into consideration is the country risk. Country risk nowadays in certain specific areas has become more and more of attention than before. Let's think about the Mediterranean countries. Let's speak about what is going on in Libya, Tunisia, Egypt nowadays. So when I'm evaluating where to go, I need the assistance of my bank and perhaps of other agency for understanding what possibly will be the future. As you know, as we said that becoming global, entering into an international process should be not just a spot transaction, but something that goes into a program. If I am programming to have stable export relationship with a partner located in a certain country, I have to understand also for how long that specific country will be stable. I have also to understand some macroeconomic factors of this country, like inflation, as it will be very important for me, for my price construction, and also for budgeting the possible, and I hope always sure, revenues from my export activity. Another risk, which is evaluated always, is the commercial risk, solvency of the buyer and contractual clauses, etc. So the commercial risk is the capacity of the buyer, the capacity of the one who has been buying my products to pay me back, vis-à-vis the contractual clauses. Now, I will be telling you that what does happen is that in most of the cases, certain measures protecting the commercial risk are taken at the very beginning of a relationship when there is a little knowledge between the two counterparties, meaning that are utilized letter of credits, some payments are even made in advance. Then during the course of the relationship, during the course of the years, the relationship gets more friendly, so nobody's paying much more attention or any attention to the commercial risk involved. So it can be that after a good, stable relationship of years, you get the surprise of not getting paid for the reason that you have been not utilizing the same measures for monitoring the risk that you were using before. This is common, but has not to happen, and I suggest to you to always use letter of credits as long as you want to protect. With regard to contractual clauses, I don't think that they are so important, meaning that you can put whatever clauses into a contract, but at the end what is important is that the commercial counterparty you have has the capacity of paying you back. As you know, to take in a court, in a foreign court, with a foreign law, with foreign language, a case for protecting your commercial interest is long, is costly. So, in my opinion, it's much better to pay the cost of a letter of credit, a confirmed letter of credit, always, than spending huge money later on for protecting yourself through a contract and with some lawyers. I thank you very much.